I used to watch BET, MTV. I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dance Hall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
Hello, and welcome to the Coaxum Report. This is Terry Coaxum, and I have a phenomenal guest on today. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm blessed. It truly is a pleasure to have you on today, Sonia Hudson Payne, to talk a little bit about your company, what you're doing, and just basically, to enlighten us on some of your barriers, some of your best practices, and some big ideas. So who is Sonia Hudson Payne, and what are you doing in the media world?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a fully loaded question. Oh my gosh. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Sonia Hudson Payne, and I am not married, but I do believe that there is such power in a name. So I decided to hyphenate my name to pay homage to my mother and my father. My mother was born in the South. My father is of Caribbean descent who migrated here. And I just wanted to make sure that I was tapping into my legacy of greatness. Just making sure that people were aware that, I have a mother and a father, and both of their names need to be acknowledged. So
that's amazing. In the Puerto Rican tradition, you get both your mother and your father's names. And so as you're saying that, I'm getting kind of goosebumps over here. I'm like, okay, they're doing it right. They're doing it right.
Yeah, I think it's so important. So when I decided to start my company, Sonia on Air, it was very, very intentional. Born and raised in Brooklyn. And when I was growing up, I really didn't have any recollection of seeing people who looked like me on television, in movies.
Yes.
And I really didn't think that there was a place for us. So I decided to create a place and a space for us.
Okay.
So Sonia on Air is a nationally syndicated podcast and radio show. Yes, I'm on the dial in Houston and also in Georgia with D.L. Hughley and Cheryl Underwood. And what I do is I interview celebrities to unpack their pivotal moments and their milestones.
Wow.
I need people who look like us to understand the highs and the lows. We live in a social media space, and the only thing that people are sharing is the glory and not the story.
That's right.
I wanted people to really understand that although you see people on television, in movies, you're reciting the lyrics to their songs, they're just like you. So why not have intentional conversations unpacking their journey? Because we all need to have a seat at the table too. So Sonia on Air shows audiences how to do it too.
Oh, that's what's up. Oh, Sonia, that is amazing. So as you're even talking to me, so let me just back it up a little bit. So the Coaxum Report, we are, aired all over the world, of course. And so I always, put special emphasis on the Caribbean and Southeast Asia, but we're all over the world in the United States. And so folks are listening to you right now and listening to your story. And so it's important when I bring folks on the show to talk about exactly what made you who you are. So if they're thinking about doing something that you have already done, you have already created the blueprint, and they don't have to do it over. They can do it from where you are. And so I'm always clear and intentional about when when I have a guest on the show to talk about their barriers, to talk about their best practices and big ideas, to talk about how they got here. And when you started off, I put my pen, I was like, wait a minute, she said power in the name. Let's just start right there, you know? And
I
it
do the
really
same
is
thing.
important. We
Pen
look
and
at
paper.
that's what we talk about. So we're already on the same page. So Sonia, I mean, podcasts are important, but there's a lot of noise out there, right? There's so many people that are social media sensations. They started podcasts, they're on a TikTok, they're doing all these amazing things. But for you to have been able to penetrate that space and to actually be heard in that space, that's phenomenal in itself. And so I want to back up and talk a little bit about your history. I know you told me about your parents and your mom being from the South. What part of the South?
Florida, Milton,
Florida.
Florida, along the Panhandle. It is still racist. I even went there to teach for a couple of years, and that's where I wrote my first book. And I had a principal call me into his office and tell me, matter of factly, why do you think that you can write a book? The only thing that you should be doing is teaching. And I said, how dare you
Oh,
limit
wow.
trajectory on my life? So that's one barrier that I had to overcome. Understanding my truth, my value, and tuning out that noise.
That's
And
right.
knowing that their narrative wasn't meant to resonate within me.
That's right. And it's not meant to resonate in most of us. And so why it's important to have you, Sonia, to come and talk about that, because I want to remind folk, and that's why I said we're part of the South. I'm also from the South, a little town called Walterboro,
Oh,
Carolina,
you froze.
Gallatin County. And so the thing about that journey, and I tell people all the time, graduated from high school when I was 16 years old. I came to New York with a box of vanilla wafers, the clothes on my back, and I did. I was going to go to John Jay College from a billboard that I saw, and I became that billboard as a CUNY success story when I was working for Chuck Schumer. And so I say all that to say that it's really important for us to write our own narratives, and that's something that you talked about in the narrative. The narrative that he tried to write for you was in his experience. That's not from your experience. And so, and this is what I need.
I'm sorry, the Wi-Fi is horrible and it keeps going between 3 different Wi-Fis and I keep getting disconnected. Can you start that question again, please?
Absolutely. So what I was talking about is your story and your narrative, and how folks have the audacity to kind of tell us what our narrative should be. But it's up to us to change the narrative. It's up to us to write our narrative. It's up to us to stand on our own truths and not to be told what we can and cannot do. And that's why it's really important for you to come on and talk about that today, because there may be someone listening to you in the Caribbean, or someone in Southeast Asia, or even someone here in the United States that needed to hear that message from you, to be reminded that each of us, Sonia, we come with our own background, our own experiences. We may even look alike, but our stories are not alike. Even if we grew up in the same household, our experiences are different. And I want to thank you so much for sharing that. But more importantly,
I always say the Black experience is not a monolith at all. There are so many layers to the Black experience. And that experience that I shared with you, that was in my young adult life. But if we were to backpedal to my formative years, like I said, my mother's from the South. My father migrated from St. Kitts. And we lived in the projects in Brooklyn, New York, underserved, marginalized communities. And it is a mirror of so many other underserved and marginalized communities across America. But yet and still, it isn't a place where you live. It is a state of mind.
That's right.
So I knew that even though where I was living as a young child, I knew that there was a bigger purpose for me. So I wanted to make sure that my surroundings didn't determine my destination. So I always had this sort of like persistence in me. And the only thing that I can attribute it to, and I never deny his name, I know that God put a special calling on my life so that I can tune out whatever negative stereotypes people were trying to deliver to me. I knew that when people were kept saying negative things to me, I knew that there was a purpose on my life, because why are so many people trying to distract me from my purpose?
That's right. And don't be distracted. I want you to write that down. And whoever's listening, don't be distracted from your purpose. And some people will come into your life just to do that, just to get you off kilt from where you need to be at. So don't be distracted from your purpose. Something else that you always said, and there is, and God will have a calling in your life that's so strong that you may not
Yes.
be able to realize what it is, but he'll know exactly what it is. And if he brought you to it, he will bring you through it. And so why it's
Yes.
always
Amen.
important to surround yourself with individuals, like-minded individuals, individuals to pour into you. And I have to say, I've had the wonderful experience of having folks like Dr. Lisa Gibson, Ambassador Susan Johnson Cook, and others that just poured into my life and allowed me to be my authentic self. And I think that's
Yes.
really, really important as well. A lot of times we feel like we made it to a certain space in our life and we can no longer be authentic. But it's important that we understand to be our authentic self, to be, the authentic Dee Bailey, to be their authentic Carmen Martinez, and all these other great and fabulous women that you may not even hear their names, but their stories allowed young people and others that are around them to take it to the next level
Mhm.
just because they cared enough to be in their space and to
Yeah.
get back. That's really important. So those are some of the barriers. So what about some of the best practice? So you started your podcast, and it was very important that you spoke on your message, that you created narratives for individuals to see, that you brought people before them that they can emulate, that we're doing positive and successful things. So tell me what was some of the best practices? What are some of the things you did to kind of make that really happen in your podcast world?
Okay, so I would say the first thing that I did was I wanted to study every aspect of podcasting. I didn't want to initially hire people to do the roles and responsibilities. If I wanted to own my own company, I wanted to know what every single role would encompass. So I did it all. And then I was able to delegate, because then I could look at those individuals and say,
Right.
okay, this is how you're supposed to be doing it. Can we kind of shift it that way? So just tapping into all of the roles so that I could get a better understanding of what my company and how my company should be run. The
That's right.
second thing was persistence. Every
Mm,
day. If I wasn't working on my craft, I had to hold
mm.
myself accountable. I
Hello.
cannot
Listen,
I can't have a
you got me
goal.
going over here. I'm like, yes. You cannot ask somebody to do what
Okay.
you're not willing to do in your business. So you study to show yourself approved, right? So you made sure you
Yes.
understood
Yes.
every single aspect of your business. And it's so important. Folks will jump in and they'll just throw money at people to do different things. And when they realize it's not being done properly, and they're like, well, why didn't I know that? Because you didn't study to show yourself approved, because you didn't prepare, because you weren't
Yes.
standing in the room with your accountant and your lawyer when they were making decisions about what was going on in your business and your vision for it. You were too busy, whatever that means, right? But you studied to show yourself approved, and then you were able to delegate. So I love that.
Yes.
Delegation is important. We cannot have a scalable
Yes.
business if we're not willing to delegate some of the services, and that's really important for people to understand, because some of us, we get so caught up in whatever we're doing in our craft that we don't want to give any piece of it away, so we end up micromanaging. But the issue with that is we only got 24 hours in our day. And the difference in having a successful, scalable business is being able to delegate it to people you trust to do what you know they're capable of
Yes.
doing, having the right people in the right seats at the right time, and moving them out if they no longer serve that seat, and knowing what that means to you and your business. See, that's a lot of great nuggets there. You
Yes.
dropping
Yes.
dimes in here. Okay.
I also
So,
want to continue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. Continue.
I wanted to continue with the persistence
Yes,
talking point. You have to do the work every
that's right.
single day. I mean, if
Right.
you're showing up for a job and you are giving them the work, why aren't you giving the same devotion to your own craft and your
That's right.
purpose and your passion? So I have to hold accountable every single day to work on my business
That's right.
every
That's right.
single day. And if I don't see the work moving forward, I have to hold myself accountable because I didn't do what I needed to do on a daily basis to move the dial forward.
That's
So
right. So,
tapping into every position in your company is important, but also doing the work on a daily basis is important.
and holding yourself accountable. I think that's one of the most important pieces that you said. Holding yourself accountable, just like we will hold anyone else accountable. One of my favorite motivational speakers is ET, Eric Thomason. He says, hold yourself accountable for the things that you're supposed to be doing. He said, if you bought something, it said money back guarantee, and it didn't do what it was supposed to do, you're holding that company accountable. Hold yourself accountable the same way that you're holding other companies
Yes.
accountable. And you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. So holding yourself
Yeah.
accountable. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, so what
And
are
then
some,
another point.
go ahead, because you got
Go
more
ahead.
nuggets for me. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is different for me because I'm used to the one doing the interviewing. So now that the roles have been reversed, I'm trying to adjust.
So another, you was gonna say another nugget. Go ahead.
Is you mentioned it briefly, is about your social capital, your social network, and making sure that you are surrounding yourself with the right people. I got to a point in my career where I noticed that my social network was kind of my personal network, and it wasn't my professional network. And I had to make a distinction between the two. I had to make sure that I expanded and created a professional network alongside my personal and social network, because I wanted to make sure that I had people in my room, in my space, where we could really be authentic thought partners, and we can also speak each other's names even if we weren't in the room. So I had to change who I was surrounding myself around and make sure that it was with like-minded individuals. That was very important. And to be honest, it was kind of depressing, because when you really look around at the people that you've surrounded yourself with, it may not be the people who can take you to the next level.
Wow.
You have to be okay with saying, I need to kind of shift and make some adjustments. And you don't have to apologize to it, because I tell people all the time, when you say no to someone else, that means that you're really saying yes to yourself.
Oh, I love that. When you say no to someone else, you're saying yes to yourself. And I always tell them that no is a complete answer. It doesn't need an explanation. So if I said no to you, it's just no. I don't have to explain I got to pick up my kid, or I have to do something that day. It's just no. But now I can add that not only am I saying no, it's a complete answer and don't need an explanation, I'm saying yes to myself. Yes to myself. Yes to whatever I am to accomplish in this day. So that, I mean, these are some great nuggets. So you're studying to show yourself approved. And so you understand all the roles and the responsibilities in the work that you do. Then you're able to delegate efficient and effectively, have the right people in the right seats for the right time, or removing them if they're not right at that time, right? And then you're talking about persistence and consistency and moving forward and making sure every day you're holding yourself accountable. You're making sure that everything that you said that you were going to accomplish and everything that you do, you're doing that. But in holding yourself accountable, you're also looking at your social network and your professional network, and understanding that the professional and the social network may be different. It seems like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with Sonia, but I wanted to continue because these nuggets are so strong. So when we're talking about our social network, and we're talking about the importance of surrounding ourselves with the right people, the people that can pour into us, the people that can encourage us, the people that can inspire us. One of the things that Sonia talked about is it's really important when you take a self-assessment of the people that you're surrounding yourself with. You have to make sure that they're reflecting who you are and what you're looking to accomplish. It's not okay just to have people surrounding you that are just continuing to pull from you. And one of the most important nuggets that she shared today is to say no when it's not working for you. And in that no, you're saying yes to yourself. And so she shared a lot of great nuggets with us today. And I'm hoping that we're able to get back on to continue the conversation, because we talked about barriers. And in those barriers, she talked about access to what she was trying to do in her field when she was teaching, how the narrative was being written for her, and she was able to move past that into what she wanted to accomplish, not believing anyone else's story, being her authentic self. And so, Sang, I'm glad to have you back on. I was just doing a quick recap on all the nuggets that you've shared, and I mean, you shared a lot of great nuggets.
But this was just another, teachable moment, another nugget. When you get kicked out the room, you come right back on in.
Yes, Queen. Yes. That's right. When you get kicked out of the room, come right back in with your head in your
Yes.
pocket.
All I did was
Understanding
change
that
the
you're
Wi-Fi.
supposed to be there. You are supposed
Yes,
to
I
be
just
there.
changed the
And
Wi-Fi. That was it.
that's important. That's important. You know, the funny thing about that, Sonia, when I was working for a small business administration, and we did an event with Senator Cory Booker at the time. U.S. Senator Cory Booker. We did an event. And so me and my colleagues went to this. It was like an auditorium style, and Tory Burch and all this stuff was going. There's a lot of people there, and the administrator was coming in. And so I was the regional advocate for President Obama. So I represented New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands and the SBA. And I had some more colleagues that were with me. And so we came in the room and they started sitting in the back. Not me. I went straight to the front of the room and sat in a front seat. Because first of all, if I'm in the room, I'm at the table. And if I'm at the table, I want to know and understand what's going on at the table. And the best way to do that is to be in the front. And so you're talking about getting kicked out of the room and coming back into the room. Same difference. And you know, the crazy thing was I don't know, I don't want to even call it crazy, but the thing about it is when I have conversations to my male counterparts, they tell me how they sit at the table. And they're not welcome, they're not invited to sit there. They sit there because they have the energy, they have the entitlement that they feel like they need to be at the table. And so this is what I want most of us women to do. I do it already. I walk in the room, and I sit straight at the table. If you're not on the if you're not at the table, you on the menu. So it's not that decisions are not being made for you on that menu. They're being made. You just not at the table. And so I encourage even my students at Medgar Evers College, I need you to be at the table and not on the menu. So it's important for us to understand our role and our responsibilities. If someone gives you a job and they don't allow you to work that job, they don't allow you the flexibility, the responsibility, and even the resources to be able to push the agenda forward based on your experience, that's not a job for you. I'm nobody's yes person. I want to be in the room. I want to be at the table. I want to help make decisions and write narratives as it relates to me and my people. Yes. And it's important for us to understand that that's okay. That's part of me being more authentic.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm glad you walked in the room.
Yes.
I'm glad you are back in the room. Yes. So now tell me a little bit more now, because we believe it or not, we're coming close to the end of our show, but I want to talk about, we talked about the barriers of entry and some of the things and some of the challenges that you had. And then we talked about, and the example you gave about the principal that called you in when you were a teacher is so timely and so important, because it's when you're working in a role and someone don't value the way that you value yourself, you understand that you're there for a season and a reason, and you set yourself up to move out of that position into something that you could be more authentic in. And that's exactly what you did and starting your podcast. And this is later on. The other thing that you really shared, and I'll go through them really quickly: study to show yourself approved. If this is the industry that you say you need to be in, no one else should know this industry better than you, especially if you're saying that this is your business, right? Making sure that you're diligent. You delegate, and you're delegating to responsible people because you understand the roles. Being persistent, pushing forward and understanding what you need to do in those roles to make sure that you're successful and those that are around you are successful as well. Holding yourself accountable for the things that you say you want to do, and also understanding your social network, which is where we kind of dropped off at, but I want to get back into that because a couple of things you said about that social network made me pause. You said there's a professional network and there's a social network. And you said that you have to surround yourself around the people that are able to take you to the next level. So what I heard you saying is, if you look around and everybody is on your same level, then you are surrounded by the wrong group of friends. You need to have some people in the room that are doing more than you, better than you, bigger than you, that have other ideas so that you can strive and take all this synergy and move it together to move upward and outward. So that's what I heard and what you had to say. And now it's added this very important nugget. And if you get kicked out of the room, you just come back into the room. That's it.
Just come back in.
That's all. And nothing
Come
to it.
right
And I
back
also talked about the
in.
no. I also talked about the no. I said she just gave me another nugget. When you say no to someone else, you're saying yes to yourself. And yes, I'm coming back in this room. Yes, I have something to say at
Yeah.
this table. Yes, I have a podcast and I have something to say. And the people that I bring on the podcast have something to say because we have a narrative that is written for us. And we want other people to understand
Hmm.
to write their narrative as well. All right.
Exactly. Exactly. And all that hard work, the dedication, the focus, every single day, holding myself accountable and making sure that I'm conscious of building a
Listen,
network, a professional network of like-minded individuals,
that's right.
it's paid off. It hasn't been easy, but I've
Nope.
gotten to the point in my career now NBC Universal calls me. Now
That's right.
HBO calls me.
That's
Now
right.
Motown Records, Def Jam, now they call me and say,
That's right.
can my client be a guest on your show? So
That's right.
initially I was reaching out to them. Now I
Mhm.
don't have anything to prove because I've
That's right.
done the work. So now
Mhm.
they reach out to me. So I
And
know
it's
that as a
important to
Black
do the work.
woman in media, I'm going to give myself a round of applause to
That's
say,
right.
Queen,
And
job
I
well
love
done.
you too. Woo, woo, woo. Hello. And these are best practices. These are all right now. I see you. I see you. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. I see you. This is so important, right? And one of the things that you just did, we don't do enough of. Patting yourself on the back, giving yourself an applause, taking a moment, right? Sometimes we take a moment, we feel guilty. No, 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 I did that. Let me take that in. Let me enjoy this
Yes.
journey for a moment. Then I can go on
Yes.
to the next part of what I'm doing. So that was so important right there. Celebrating yourself. I'm adding that to your nuggets.
Mhm.
Celebrating yourself. You don't have to wait on other people to celebrate you. You can celebrate yourself. One of the things I used to tell my students would come in and say, well, I'm going to get my degree because one of them said to me specifically, she's, I'm going to get this degree because I hate my job. So I'm going to get this degree. I'm going to cuss my boss out and I'm going to move on. I said, well, what we not going to do is cussing. There ain't going to be no cussing of the bosses. You're definitely not going to quit your job until
Because
you
your
find
paths may
a job.
cross later
No,
on.
right.
Yeah.
Until you find another job. I said, but here's what you're going to do. And I gave her the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People and Getting to Yes. And so one of the major nuggets in that book, and I had her to understand, it's not about him. It's about your experience in this journey and in this time. And I gave them an example of an orange. I have an orange, right? That's all we have. We only got this one orange, and you want this orange, and I want this orange. What is the first thing you're gonna do? What's the first thing you would do with that orange, Sonia?
I'm
I only
sorry
got
because
one.
the Wi-Fi was going in. What did you ask me?
We have one orange, and you want that orange, and I want that orange. How do we how do we handle that? What would you do about that situation?
How would I hand if I have an orange and you wanted it?
Yep,
The Wi-Fi. I'm so sorry.
that's okay. Because we already came back in the room. We know how this is
The
done.
screen is frozen. I'm sorry. Repeat it one more time.
You have an orange and I'd like that orange. What are we gonna do with that orange? How we gonna do that? You want it and I want it. You have something I want?
I think I heard a gist of it, so I'm hoping that I answered this question correctly. If it's a person that wants the same orange, first of all, I'm going to ask myself, do they know what to do with the orange? And if they did know what to do with the orange, I would just split the orange in half because we can all eat. But I
That's
just
right.
want to make sure that you know what to do with that orange.
Okay,
That's it.
see, that's a different perspective from it, and I love it. But the first thing you do is ask, do you know what to do with it? What do you need the orange for? Because I want the orange for the juice, and you may
Mm-hmm.
want it for the peel to make a pie. So we don't have to split it. I'm just going to give you the peel, and you're going to give me the juice. And we both were able to do what we need to do with this orange without it being a situation of always satisficing or splitting. And so, and I know you can't hear me. It looks like your Wi-Fi is really giving you some issues right now. So Sonia, we're gonna have you back on the show because we got all these nuggets. And if you can hear me, can you just give us a final thought on the next level for anyone that's listening to us today? A final thought on some best practices to do what you're doing in your space.
Well, I think I gave some nuggets. What I do want to leave your audience with is paying it forward. What I do on a daily basis, at the end of every single night, I don't care how late it is, I go on what I called a reflection walk. In that reflection walk, I take my daughter with me because she is the next generation of leaders. I want to make sure that I'm unpacking my day with her so that she has life lessons as she is growing and developing. I can't take all this greatness and not pay it forward to the next generation. So I implore your listeners, if you have children or if you have youth that are in your circle, use your level of expertise to teach someone else, because we owe it to ourselves to continue this legacy of greatness.
That's right.
God didn't give you all of these gifts so that you can be selfish and keep it to yourself. Make sure that you pay it forward. That's how legacies are created.
Oh my God, that is amazing. That is amazing. A reflection walk.
Yeah,
That
every
is
night.
amazing.
Every night.
Oh my God, that is amazing. And that is being intentional. You're being intentional.
Yes.
And so it's really important. I mean, this was an amazing show. I do want to thank you. And I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but you went out the room and came back in. And you were intentional with it. And I just want to thank you so much for being a part of today's show. And then and I'm definitely going to call you back on. Tell the listening audience where they can find you at. How can we
Sure.
that you're sharing with us today?
Sure, Sonya. Near streams across every major streaming platform, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Alexa, Pandora, YouTube. I'm on the dial in Georgia, Texas. My website is www.sonyaonair.net. And you can also follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Sonya_on-air.
All right. Awesome. So we're going to be looking to hear a lot more of these great nuggets. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to share this with you as soon as this is available. I will share it with you so that we can continue to get these nuggets out here. And I just want to quick recap, because we talked about barriers and folks always talk about barriers, but you came in with solutions. You came in really giving the listening audience a lot of great solutions. Despite your history, despite anything you have, you still have all the things in you that you need to be great. And you started off by talking about studying to show yourself approved. You really talked about really understanding your business, getting into your business, learning every single aspect of podcasting, learning every single aspect of the service delivery of what you wanted to do and what you wanted the product to look like. Then you were able to delegate your different tasks to individuals, knowing and understanding what they were responsible for doing, but more importantly, tweaking it a little when you had to go along the line. Then you started talking about persistence. That's the part where a lot of us get stuck. Once we get into a place and we're feeling a way, we can't be consistent and persistent. And that's why we're not able to get to that next level. But you told us that there's a way to do that. You just have to keep moving forward and holding yourself accountable for whatever it is that you said that you're going to do. Social network. Your social network is your social net worth. Surrounding yourself with professionals and social individuals that are able to pour back into you. Because one thing I heard you say, Sonya, is that you pour into a lot of people. And what we realize is that you can't continue to pour into people if your cup is half empty. So you need to make sure that people are around you that are able to pour back into you so that you can put on your oxygen mask on first to be able to take things to the next level. And then in that social network and that professional network, you talk to us a little bit about no and the power of no. And so, and it's really important. And before we get off, you're going to have to tell us the name of the book you wrote, because I know it's powerful and I want to share that as well. But you talked about, I tell people no is a complete answer. You don't need an explanation. Just say no and move on to the things that you know that you are looking to accomplish in that day, because you only got 24 hours. You said say no, and say no is saying yes to yourself. And that's important. And then, of course, when you get kicked out of the room, in this case, a virtual room, you come back intentionally. You know what you're coming to do. You come back intentionally. And then finally you end it with a reflective walk. And in that reflective walk, you found a way to continue to build legacy in that walk. You found a way to share your day with your daughter in that walk. And more importantly, those are the times that she's going to remember more than anything else. She may remember mommy wasn't here today, but that reflective walk is going to say, hey, baby, here's why I wasn't here today, and walk you down what that day looks like. I think that's so powerful and that's
Yeah.
so important. And I want to thank you so much
Yeah.
for being a part of the show. We're going to look for Sonia on air. She's on all the major platforms. I applaud you for all that you're doing and celebrate you as you celebrate yourself. But understand you got a sister from another mister over here that's looking to encourage and inspire you to do all that you're doing and more. So thanks for being on the Coaxum Report. Have a super amazing Wednesday on purpose. Take care. Be
Thank
blessed.
you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. You as well. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.